There used to be a time in this country where we used to warn others about the dangers of authoritarian regimes all around the world. We used to learn about stories where people would just get swept up in the middle of the night, taken away from their families, never to be heard from again. But now we, the American people, are actually living in a country where the government itself is rounding up innocent people, stripping their due process rights away, and now shipping them off to a gulag down in El Salvador. And what's probably as disturbing is that to some extent, the Fox propaganda must be working, because Donald Trump is still experiencing a 48% approval rating on the topic of immigration. Because instead of trying to look into these stories one by one, instead of trying to figure out how innocent people are getting swept up in these mass deportation efforts, the people over at Fox News have decided to just parrot all of the talking points given to them by the Trump regime. I mean, just listen to how Laura Ingraham categorizes all of these people as violent criminal gangsters. If you guys do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe.
Instead of common sense policies that appeal to a broad base of the working people of this country, Democrats spend their time fighting Trump's efforts to deport the most dangerous illegals.
I call on my colleagues right now to demand the return of people unlawfully taken to El Salvador on that so-called plane full of gangbangers.
Yeah, the liberals obsess over one Maryland migrant who was shipped to the Supermax prison in El Salvador.
What they're actually doing is sweeping up people based upon their appearance and not even going through the basic identity checks and due process.
This guy has no reason to be in a jail in El Salvador. He's only there because of Trump's policies.
Now that screams middle America. Now, not good if it was a mistake, but important to note, that guy was an MS-13 member, as court documents showed.
Now, Laura Ingraham is just full of shit here. We've talked about the Kilmar Abrego Garcia many times before on this show, and we learned that he's not here in the country illegally. In fact, he went before an immigration judge in 2019 when Donald Trump was president, I might add, and that judge determined that he deserved protective status to stay in this country because if he were returned to El Salvador, he would likely be subjected to gang violence. So this is not a man who has been convicted of a crime. He's not been accused of a crime. The Trump administration has not provided any evidence that he's part of a gang. And the court documents that Laura Ingraham is talking about is one weird one-off where some other dude who was getting arrested pointed his finger and said, oh yeah, I think he's part of the MS-13. And even the police in that interaction did not believe him. So there has been no credible evidence to suggest that Kilmar Abrego Garcia is dangerous, is a criminal, is a gangster, or any of those things. But because Laura Ingraham wants to parrot all of the regime's talking points, this is the type of shit we get. I mean, where is her humanity? And even when they are presented with evidence of all of these innocent people getting swept up in these mass deportation efforts, this is how they respond.
There is still a due process issue here. And there are now numerous cases confirmed of people in that mega prison who should not be. We talked earlier in the week about the Venezuelan gay barber who is not in Tren de Aragua, who's in there. There's a Venezuelan married man with a political asylum claim. He has no tattoos. He was sent because of a paperwork error. And there's another man, a 25-year-old who works as a baker in Dallas, who had an autism awareness tattoo in honor of his 15-year-old brother. He got detained 2 times. The first time he was able to speak to an agent and explain what it was, and he said, no, you're clear. He was detained again in Dallas. They did not care, and they have sent him there.
Yeah, so hopefully we fix these mistakes
no, but
and
that's
we can
not
keep
okay.
going forward
there
with
is
the
a way to do, you can, it is.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, wait a minute.
You
You're
mean
okay.
it's not good enough if you fix the mistake?
I don't think, in the case of the gay barber who had his
to do a due process for every one of them?
Well, there aren't that many. We've only sent, what, 250?
Jessica, you're showing more sympathy to these illegal alien gangbangers than you show to American citizens when you mistakenly let 10 million people
We should have the pictures of the victims of these people and it's real deterrence so the American people and you can see it.
That is.
So did you hear Jesse Waters there? Oh, you care more about these illegal gangbangers than you do the American people. And then Jeanine Pirro follows it up with, oh, well, we should put the victims on TV so the American people and you can see it. which just assumes that the Trump administration is right, that all of these people are part of a gang and are violent criminals. They're not taking into account that we now have credible reporting for dozens of people that they are not criminals. They are not gangbangers. But this is the propaganda that Fox News has been selling to the American people. And thank goodness for somebody like Jessica Tarlov, at least somebody there is getting out the factual information to those Fox News viewers. And we need to just keep on hammering on this point because it is unacceptable that Donald Trump still has a 48% approval rating when things like this are going down in the United States of America. This should be unacceptable to each and every American. And now we even have Fox News advocating for just stripping all due process rights away from all of these people.
It is a long process before you get a final deportation order.
It takes
and I think,
a long time.
I mean, we're talking about sometimes, remember some of the cases, the court cases, even to start, are 3 years out.
Now they say 7.
I mean, you just had 10 million people. That's why it's at 7. And I think this is why the administration is saying, do we wait until we're out of office where we have no control of this? You want us to wait 4 years before we start getting the gang members and criminals out?
Them,
I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And I think that's why ultimately this is going to end up the Supreme Court.
What is wrong with these people? I mean, just get their logic here. Oh, it might take a little bit of time, might take a couple years. Well, that's too long to wait. So let's just strip all the due process rights away from every single one of these people because it might take a little bit too long. How about we fund immigration courts so many of these people can make it through the system faster? Why is it always turning to these fascistic tactics, stripping due process rights away so innocent people can get rounded up and sent off to an El Salvadorian gulag? I mean, what is wrong with these people? The due process rights afforded to us here in the United States is one of the fundamental pillars of our society. If the government is just allowed to go around, start accusing people of this or that, and then they do not have to prove that, we are in a very dangerous territory. That means none of us are safe. None of us have any freedom at all. That is why due process rights are so important. And now we are learning even more brutal details about who this administration has actually swept up. Because PBS recently did an analysis and it showed that more than half of these people have absolutely no criminal record at all.
The Trump administration has yet to release the identities of the Venezuelan men it sent to El Salvador last month. We obtained internal government documents listing their names and any known criminal information. We cross-referenced that with domestic and international court filings, news reports, and arrest records whenever we could find them. At least 22% of the men on the list have criminal records here in the United States or abroad. The vast majority are for nonviolent offenses like theft, shoplifting, and trespassing. About a dozen are accused of murder, rape, assault, and kidnapping. For 3% of those deported, it is unclear whether a criminal record exists. But we could not find criminal records for 75% of the Venezuelans, 179 men, now sitting in prison. In response to our findings, a Department of Homeland Security spokeswoman said many of those without criminal records, quote, are actually terrorists, human rights abusers, gangsters, and more. They just don't have a rap sheet in the U.S.
I mean, how insane is this? At the most generous, only 25% of the people have committed any crimes at all. And a subsection of that, only 12 people have committed violent crimes. That is why due process is so important. That is why it is so disgusting that you have Fox News just parroting all of the Trump administration talking points because innocent people are getting swept up. Now, I'm not saying that every single one of the 75% where no criminal records could be found, that doesn't mean that they aren't maybe involved here or there, but that's the problem when you take away due process rights. You can't, you have no recourse. The government just accuses you and then ships you out of the country, and you don't even get to address the claims against you. But it is very concerning that when the analysis is done, that 75% of the people have no criminal record to be found. That is why this propaganda is so dangerous. That is why it's so dangerous to not speak out against power. That's why it's so dangerous to not call out the Trump administration when they deserve to be called out. Because even when they go into court, they're now playing games to try to avoid all accountability for the human rights abuses that they are currently engaged in.
Since then, the U.S. government has disclosed very few details about the operation. CBS News published the only list of all 238 deportees.
The government is refusing to answer almost every question from the court.
Based on what grounds?
Well, now they've invoked what's called the state secrets privilege. They are saying they can't even confirm details about the planes.
We asked a Department of Homeland Security spokeswoman what evidence the government has, besides tattoos and social media posts, linking people like Andre and Herce to Tren de Aragua. She cited state secrets and ongoing litigation as the reasons DHS cannot comment on these individual allegations.
This is unacceptable. You have a government rounding people up, shipping them out of the country, off to a torturous prison, one of the most notorious in the world for their violence, their torture, fighting to the death. And innocent people are getting swept up in that. And you have a government going into court and saying, we don't got to tell you nothing. State secrets, foreign affairs. This is what authoritarian regimes do. They strip away the due process so there's no accountability for any of their actions. They take away your rights. That way they can pretty much do with you what they want if you've made their shit list. And right now, it's all of the brown people and all of the people who might not have the right documentation to be in the country. They're all at risk of being shipped out of this country, maybe to a country that they've never known, to a maximum security prison. And do not think that this is going to stop at the outgroup, because this is how it always starts, right? You start with the outgroup and then you move inward. And Donald Trump is already musing about sending our violent criminals, U.S. citizens, down to El Salvador. So don't for a second think that without all of these due process rights stripped away, that we are not at risk as American citizens of this very same thing happening to us. And that's why it's so disgusting. It's so dishonorable. These people are just horrible human beings. We have innocent people being rounded up and shipped out of the country. And you have Fox News and the people on Fox News just parroting the talking points without a care in the world. I just cannot believe that this is happening in the United States of America, and Donald Trump is still receiving a 48% approval rating on immigration. That means people are just overlooking all of these facts, or it means that they don't care. And that is terrifying. Because like I said, it doesn't stop with the outgroup. Soon, Donald Trump is going to be trying to lock up his political opponents. That is how all of these things start. So we need to stand up against this. We need to push back not only against the authoritarian regime, but the authoritarian propaganda outlet who is pretty much fascist to their core at this point. So, I just don't know what else to say. These people are terrible human beings, and we've got to do more to push back against this. We have to get that approval rating down as low as we possibly can. There's always going to be a subset of the country that believes in all of these fascistic tactics, but I am definitely not one of them, and I know many of you watching are not. So let's keep on keeping on. Let's keep calling this administration out. Let's try to hold them accountable as often as we can, because these types of human rights violations have not been seen in this country for decades. And I am not going to just, stand by while this administration tries to get away with all of these heinous acts. So I will leave it there for now, guys. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We're trying to build something here on the left that adequately pushes back against this right-wing media ecosystem that does parrot the Trump talking points day in and day out. So if you do like what I do here, please do remember to smash that subscribe button. It is free. And if you guys want more details on some of the innocent people who are being rounded up in these mass deportation efforts, please do watch and share that video on your screen now. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.